Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome. I'm so excited for today, Eleni. I'll let you introduce her, of course. But today our guest has such good energy. We've already had goosebumps, all of us here today. And I'm excited for our listeners to have the goosebumps too.
Yes, absolutely. Today we are excited to welcome to our show Tiffany Cagwin. And Tiffany is a holistic health practitioner. And she's also a longtime yoga teacher. And we just learned something of a student of breath work. And she's going to talk to us all today, probably about a lot of things, because as we were connecting before the show, we realized we could talk with Tiffany for like probably 6 hours on end.
Yeah, so we'll do multiple podcasts. We're bringing you back for sure.
But she's going to talk to us about energy and kind of healing this energy shortage that's so prominent in our culture today, especially among those fast-paced individuals in that corporate world. So we are so excited for this conversation, and welcome to the show, Tiffany.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And like I said, my only regret is that I'm not in the room with you guys.
Yes.
Then we would just amplify those goosebumps.
Yes.
It's been amazing already. But yes to coming on again. This is just going to continue. We have so much to talk about.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yay. So excited.
Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
I'll let Kay ask the first question because you are the story person.
Yes. I just love stories. I love to know why people came into this like more functional medicine side of things. So what happened in your life to bring you here with this more holistic view?
Yeah. So my journey really started quite a ways back. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Wow.
So,
and how old are you now, or whereabouts for our listeners?
40. Yeah, I'm 45 now. So
Okay. Yep.
it's been, over 20 years
Wow.
of, since that started. And at the time, so this was in the 90s, and I got diagnosed and was very, very sick. It was one of those things that went pretty deep, pretty fast. It kind of came out of nowhere, and then not nowhere. I know that now, which we'll get into, but it seemingly came out of nowhere at the time. And doctors were just like, this is it. We don't know why. There's no reason. There's no explanation. I asked the questions like, does diet matter? What should I do differently? And they said, nothing. Like, you're just going to take medications. We're just going to roll you through all kinds of meds and see what works. You're going to be on meds forever. You'll likely have surgery. The best we can do is just kind of keep you as calm as possible in between flares, and you just live your life, eat what you want, live how you want, and take medication.
There was no connection to food even for them.
None.
Okay.
None.
Okay.
Well, and in the 90s too. I mean,
wow.
A
Pop-Tart will help.
Yeah. Now we kind of have like the autoimmune protocol and some of those things that have laid some foundation. And it's, but here we are like nearly 25, 30 years later.
Yeah.
Like that information wasn't available.
Okay. So we are making strides in our culture.
Totally. It wasn't available, and the access to it, if it was there, was impossible because there wasn't the internet.
Right.
So that's the other piece about
libraries.
the 90s.
Yeah.
There was no Googling anything.
Yes.
So I wasn't able to do that, and it's, those years I just listened. I didn't know what else to do. I listened to doctors, got through college. Sometime in my 20s, though, there was a nagging sensation of just like, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand how what I eat doesn't impact this digestive feeling like disease. That doesn't make any sense to me. And the kinds of foods they were telling me, I mean, you joked about Pop-Tarts, but that's kind of the direction they were leading me in, was like, eat very easy to digest things, white breads, mushy vegetables, like literally nothing with nutrients.
Yeah. Because then you have to digest them.
Right. They were like, just make it easy on yourself. Milkshakes galore. That's fine. I mean, that was actually the advice.
Wow.
Counter to just, I think it was just my intuition was like, no, that's not.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So I did try to start exploring. And the only thing I could find at the time was macrobiotic diet. Like I found a book at a store. It talked about macrobiotic diet. I went all in because this is my personality. Yep. I'm like all or nothing, all in. So I was a teacher first out of college. So it was in my first year of teaching. and planning a wedding and dealing with a lot of stress. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to change everything about how I live and cook. And I hired a macrobiotic chef in Cleveland. I was living in Cleveland, Ohio. I got rid of everything in my kitchen because it's about your cookware and it's everything. And so I went all in with macrobiotics. Not sustainable.
No.
It wasn't a lifestyle I could live forever. But the interesting thing about that was it at least planted the seed. It made enough difference in how I was feeling that I was like, okay, I'm onto something here.
Yes.
I don't think this is the whole answer,
Yeah.
but it did show me to like keep going, keep
Yes.
going because it mattered when I changed my food and my lifestyle. I was having less pain, less frequency between, like there was less flares. So that was interesting. Planted a seed. Fast forward a couple years, I got pregnant with my son and had to go off my medication like immediately.
Oh.
And my joints. So one of the things that would happen for me with Crohn's was my joints would flare, and my joints were very, very bad with him. And they didn't have much of a solution other than just draining them and injecting me with cortisol and things.
Yep.
But I couldn't exercise, and I was this type A obsessive, like really abusive exerciser. Actually, like I was pretty harsh on I was not nice to myself.
Yeah.
And that drove me crazy. And somebody was like, well, there's this thing called yoga. I literally had never heard of yoga at that point.
Wow.
I was like,
That's funny.
what is yoga? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
They're like, just get some DVDs, videos, whatever. I think actually they were probably VHS if I'm being
back
honest.
then.
Yeah. And so it was the only thing I could do was yoga in my living room. What happened, it helped with my physical body a little bit. It was very gentle. So it was fine, I guess, helped with the pain a bit. But the piece that brought in was that I realized how much less stressed I was. So I went from this very anxious, massively like controlling or sort of like type A all the time thing to like a little bit downregulated, a little less stressed, a little less reactive, which then that started to change my health, my symptoms.
Yes. It all is from that stress center and if you're like in chi with your life or whatever. Yeah.
Totally. So the pieces were coming together. So that was like another layer. So then I mean, yoga just became like my passion, and I studied and practiced and studied and practiced. And eventually in 2011, decided to open a yoga studio. Wasn't sure. I was just like, the place that I lived didn't have any yoga, and I had been living in Boston, and I had had access to so many incredible teachers. Excuse me. And, I was kind of complaining about being in Syracuse. I'm like, where's all the yoga? And somebody said, well, then you do it. Bring it.
I love it.
Why don't you? Be part of the solution. Don't just complain about the problem, like fix it. So yeah, that began the journey of owning yoga studios and just took me deeper and deeper into my yoga practice. And I continued with the food, just trying to explore healthier lifestyles, put my Crohn's into remission for 10 years through all of that. Now, I was still on medication, some pretty intense medication, which over time I knew was going to cause a lot of potential enormous problems. Like major cancers were the risks. And, there was like a lot with those that was kind of scary. But I did create a period of calm where I didn't have any flares. I just lived very healthy with lifestyle and yoga and then the medication. Eventually, my doctor said, it's been long enough that you've been calm. We see that it's in remission. It may just stay quiet now. So let's pull you off the meds and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that was good for about 4 years. I was like solidly off of medication and completely in remission still, and everything was quiet.
Wow.
I can see in hindsight there were signs and symptoms. And, as the studio got bigger, the business got bigger, I had multiple locations and a giant staff, and I was not taking care of myself at all. Like so looking back, it's like, of course the train was going to come off the tracks. There was no way it wasn't going to come off the tracks.
Yeah.
And then it did big time. So this is where we're going to functional medicine. I was leading a yoga retreat. I had decided to sell the yoga studios. It had been about 8 years and I was ready to move on and to release those. So I was leading a yoga retreat to Costa Rica in February of 2019. I had just accepted an offer on the yoga studio. And on the plane, on the way to Costa Rica, my Crohn's came back full force, like full on. I was critically ill by the time we landed.
Oh, that sounds like a terrible plane ride.
Yeah, should have been in the hospital immediately. Fever, all the things, pain and joint swelling. And
how scary when you're going to another country too.
It was terrifying. I mean, Costa Rica is a great place to be if that's going to happen. They have great healthcare, but I had 40 people on this retreat. Also, my son, my dad, all these people. So my ex also taught yoga, so he was able to just stay and lead the retreat, and I had to turn around and go home the next day and go in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah,
another plane ride too. After
God,
that's tough.
Yes.
I don't know how I got through that. I'll be honest. Like I think about it, I'm like, I have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got through the airport because I do vaguely remember like wheelchairs and people pushing me because I couldn't, my joints were so swollen.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't know. I got home, I got into the hospital and I was there for like a week.
Wow.
And so I was facing, of course, again, medications. And here we go down this rabbit hole of like, and they're like, no, but they've gotten so much better. There's different infusions. And I'm like, no. I was so sick that I did, I think there is I'll say there's some value sometimes for like acute getting things under control.
Yes.
I'm not somebody who thinks like no Western medicine ever.
Right.
I think that's like not wise.
Yep,
Right.
I agreed.
Yeah, I needed to stabilize because things were spiraling fast.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did allow, I went on some medication for a while, but it was at that moment that I was like, okay, it's been a long time since I've looked into, I know things have evolved. I had functional medicine books at home. Like I had Mark Hyman and Amy Myers. I had them on my shelf, but I was like, I feel fine. I don't need to read these.
Yeah.
I'll just have them. I'm just going to have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then I started reading them and I was like, oh, there's so much more information now. Like we've come so far.
Yes. Yes.
And that took me down that. So I healed at that point. Then I had piled on more autoimmune diagnosis. I was at like 5 different autoimmune diseases at that point. And, through a functional medicine approach, an integrative approach, I should say, because it's emotional, spiritual, mental, physical.
I love that.
It's your whole lifestyle. It's not just one thing. But with that approach, completely reversed and healed all of them, and they are clinically gone. So very different than remission.
Okay, wait. I want to know all the things you did.
Yeah,
like your food, your chakras, like all of it, or what was a day,
no,
or what
honestly,
were the things you did?
I started with food. That was the first. I mean, that's the biggest impact, right? Like sometimes you just have to start with. You got to go deep with the biggest impact because you need to feel better quickly.
So you started eating fresh whole foods, or did you cut out things, or what was your parameters?
I cut out entirely processed food completely.
Yes.
So I was only eating whole foods. I essentially followed an autoimmune paleo diet.
Yes. Yep.
I was eventually able to just kind of transition that into like paleo. I didn't have to be over time so specific with the autoimmune, with all the seasonings and stuff. But at first that was what I did.
Yeah.
So no sugar, no dairy, no gluten. Gluten was huge. Gluten was a hard one for me, but that was eye-opening.
Yes, I believe it.
For sure. Because that, when I cut out gluten, the joint swelling and pain went away immediately.
Yes.
Within a week.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. So I started with that, of course, supplementing certain things that I was deficient in, because I also at the same time started working with a functional medicine doctor who then ran functional labs, things I'd never heard of. We did full gut tests and panels, and she was interesting because she could, she was an MD, so she had kind of both lenses because I was still on medication at the beginning, so it was helpful because I needed to come off of the medications but do it properly. But we looked at everything: parasites, mold, bacteria, we dug deep into the physiology, like the physical root cause things that were happening in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started shifting lifestyle things, the water I was drinking, filtering my air. I realized I lived in a home that was not conducive because it was just a very old home and there was like asbestos and lead in the pipes and mold. There was a lot of contributing factors in the space I was in. It wasn't, not that they had caused it, but it was blocking the healing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then there was the lifestyle things like, changing all that, changing the products over, and not all at once. This is gradual. You can't do it all at once, but it was like I was starting to feel better and better. And it's like, okay, what's the next thing that I need to look at? Like what are the toxins I'm putting? I was dyeing my hair still. And like, I had to be real about that. I was like, oh, like this, there's just, I'm healing and I can't keep putting toxins in. I have to give my body a break while I heal.
Yeah.
And then looking at the other components, the emotional contributions.
Yep.
That became very clear to me as I started to look at patterns of when these flares would happen. It was very clear to me that there was emotional things that were triggering the body to freak out and then not be able to handle the stressors of life. And then my body would be like, oh, right, well, there's mold. So let's make that a thing. Because you're super stressed and you're not dealing with this emotional component.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then it just becomes, and then over time it's like, it's a holistic approach of like looking at the energetics, the lifestyle.
Did you have someone walking you through like the emotional healing, or did you just kind of press into it and kind of heal with time?
Yeah. So after working with the functional medicine doctor and we got a lot of the like main physical things healed, like the gut rebalanced, the hormones rebalanced, when I was clear with all that, I was studying functional medicine then at that time because I knew for myself I wanted to go deeper, but I had a little inkling that like, oh, I think I'm going to want to help people with this because people need to heal and they need to know they can, and so through my studies, I was just being exposed to different modalities that help with addressing that, and of course I have this like strong background. I have 20 years of yoga, meditation, mindfulness, spirituality. I just started leaning into what I knew, in terms of things available to me. Like I, of course, knew about Qigong and tapping, and I started doing a lot more energy work. So I started to do Reiki, work with different kinds of energy healers that were helping me identify blockages and things. Because I'll tell you honestly, like I felt mentally, in terms of just like my thoughts around where I was in life with emotions and traumas and things, I was good. I really felt like in terms of what I could wrap my head around, I felt really solid. And like I had dealt with things well from the past. I was like handling, relationships in my current life. Well, I really thought I had a handle on it. What I came to learn through energy work was that there was all these hidden things that I just wasn't going to be able to access unless I had help from different types of healers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we're both into that stuff and I love it so much. Yeah.
It really is. I think like the chiropractor I work with, Dr. Hannah, she does neuro-emotional technique. And just like you're saying, I went like into those sessions with her because she started working with me when my husband and I were dealing with infertility, and she brought it up. I was seeing her for a different reason. She brought it up as like, hey, have you considered that there may be emotional blockages to you getting pregnant? And I immediately thought of certain things that I was angry about and frustrated about or sad about in my current life. And none of those things came up or have ever come up. I think because I know that I feel those things and I let myself feel those things. The things that came up were incidences from childhood.
Like subconscious stuff.
And honestly, events I didn't even remember until we started digging them up, let alone would I ever have known on my own that they were affecting me in any sort of way. But those are the things that consistently come up, or things that happened when I was 7 years old, 13 years old, 21 years old, like things I've completely forgotten about. But just like you're saying, like it is the things we've suppressed that can impact us the most, which is why working with somebody that can help you do that deep digging is helpful.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I'm so into, I just went deep into that world. I was like, okay, now this is the path, and I started to even like, as a practitioner, look into the bioenergetic side of it. And, like there's energy work, there's the bioenergetics systems and things. And it's all about that, right? There's literally hidden things that and no amount of talking about it, because like you're saying, the things that we're conscious of and aware of, great, we're dealing with them, we're aware of them. I've sat in meditation for so long and I see my thoughts and I understand like how I react to things, and I understand like when I was able to monitor that stuff and adjust. But like there was this deep stuff that it's interesting, the ages that you said too, because like you said 7, 13, and 21. And, in Chinese medicine, these things go in 7-year cycles.
Yeah. Funny.
And you named ages in 3 significant 7-year periods.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'll tell you, I just recently worked with this incredible acupuncture person who identified precisely the age that I had a massive trauma that is locked away in my body. And then he explained it like it gets locked in a room, and your body, out of like self-preservation, can kind of put it away somewhere. And you move on with life. And then whatever, for various reasons, it gets triggered or released. In my case, part of his theory is my body is so strong and healthy because of the lifestyle I live that every now and then it's like, right, we're ready to get rid of this now. And then it, would try to push it out. But that really specific, he was like, it happened in your second 7-year cycle between 12 and 14. And immediately I was like,
yeah, then you knew.
I did. And it's like, and then Crohn's started at 17. And isn't that interesting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's, and so now I'm just convinced like you can't, and this is my passion, is it's like, I'll work with people wherever they're at. There's always an entry point.
Absolutely.
You have to start somewhere. You cannot start with all the things all at once, so people listening, it's not like, I think it could sound overwhelming. Like, well, I don't even know where to start. Where do you start with it?
Right.
I think the answer is it depends, and which part resonates with you the most as feeling the most pressing.
Yeah. What gets you excited? Or
you start with that one thing, because then when you feel better, you are interested in uncovering the next layer and the next layer. But it's like you have to be willing to look at the fact that it does if you really want to heal fully and bring your body into radiant health, you can't ignore any parts of this over time. And a lot of what I see in the space that I'm in is like, there's a really heavy emphasis on just the nutrition and supplements, and people come to me and they're like, well, which supplements are going to fix me? And I'm like, well, that's not how it works.
Right.
I wish there was some magic pill. We would all bottle it up and make so much money. But, so I think that that's the important message for me, is that it's like, you don't have to do it all at once, but you do have to accept that if you're going to go down a real healing journey, there's no part that can be ignored.
Yeah. I'm going to like bottle that quote right now.
Gosh. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this whole thing could we could just end the episode right here, and that could be an episode in and of itself. But I'd love to know today, one of these things that we talked about was this sort of energy shortage across our culture as a whole. And I think we're so bombarded every second of our lives with input that it makes sense that our output is being drained. But What are some of the daily lifestyle habits that people can engage in, not just to get their energy back, but to get their health back? Because I think that's kind of what we've moved into is, you know, you had Crohn's, you dealt with Crohn's, but I think everything you're sharing applies to any health condition. So what are some of the daily habits you engage in today that you lay out for people as a way to improve their health?
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I love how you said it. We're bombarded and there's so much output. You know, we're like, everything's just sort of, it's like, our battery just gets drained and we don't know how to properly fill the battery.
Yeah.
And so we reach for things that are Band-Aids, quick fixes that get you through the moment. And you're right. It's like mine was called Crohn's. That was the name they gave it. But anytime you're dealing with any symptom at all, essentially the two things, which is relevant for what I'm going to share in terms of like daily practices, if you're having any symptoms at all, it's a mitochondrial deficiency. Mitochondria, the energy output, there's an energy leakage.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's like excess weight, fatigue, insomnia, headaches, an autoimmune, joint pain. It doesn't matter. The mitochondria are not efficiently operating because they are responsible for everything.
Yep.
Rest, you know, for every repair process, for energy production. And we're not taught how to support them. That's the conversation that's missing, is it's like there's only so many ways actually to get those inputs in to restore the energy in our body. And so in terms of daily habits, why that's relevant is that needs to be the focus, is like, what mitochondria are not human. They have their own DNA. So I think that's important actually to understand without going into like a nerdy science lesson. They're not human. And so they're getting inputs from nature. They're getting their cues from nature. So that is the number one piece that I see as a massive issue with the energy shortage, is a complete disconnect from nature.
Yes. Preach.
We live our lives indoors.
Yep.
And we think with all the technology, we actually never have to leave. I was guilty of it as well. Like I had gotten so far in my healing journey with food and supplements, changing water filters, air filters, but then I hit a block. And it wasn't until I understood this piece, the circadian piece, and my disconnect with nature, because I was like walking on a treadmill under my desk on my computer and thinking I was like doing myself some good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all I needed to do is take that walk outside and I'm going to have a different level of healing.
100%.
Just from the fresh air and being near trees and grounding, because the inputs we need come from the earth. That gives you the electrons, that gives you the charge to recharge your batteries. It has to come from whole food that has been grown in the ground and with sunlight to obtain the energy from the earth. It has to come from water, from touching, trees, touching the ground, breathing fresh air, getting sunshine. You know, these are the things. And this is what's missing. Like this alone would change people's lives.
Yes. Yes.
In terms of daily habits, number one thing I have my clients do, actually before they even start the nutrition program with me, I always delay that a few weeks. And I'm like, you're going to do circadian stuff first.
Love it.
That's it. We're building the foundation properly. And then we'll deal with food and detox and supplements and all the things that like the shiny objects. But we're going to do the like really foundational stuff first and establish patterns. So I make them commit to sunrise before cell phone.
Good.
They have to get the sunlight in their eyes.
So hard, but good.
I know. And I'm realistic. I understand. And people have all their reasons that they have to look at their cell phone, and that's okay. I'm not going to ask people. I'm going to be realistic. The shortcut that I do ask my clients to embrace is to there's like a shortcut you can program on your phone that turns it red. And so at night, I ask them to turn it red so that if they have to look at it in the morning for an alarm or for any reason, they're at least not giving themselves blue light immediately in the morning before they've seen the sun.
I just leave the red light on mine all day long.
Really?
Yeah, she does.
That's
and her computer's
amazing.
black.
And my
Everything's
computer
black.
is that way too. It used to drive when I worked in a business and not out of my home. It drove my coworkers
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
if they used my computer.
Like
because
the Word document, everything's black. Everything's black.
it's all just like this red, but you get used to it. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It does look
Yeah, yeah,
weird
yeah.
at first. If you're not used to it, it bothers you. But like it took one day, and now every screen I look at has that red light filter on it because I just if I take it off, my eyes like hurt.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, do you find also, this is what I find when my phone's on red, I'm so much less interested in engaging with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you
It's
find
less
that?
stimulating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh, this is boring. I don't need to check Instagram.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
there's no colors. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Okay, I'll work
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah. So it's the easy. So, getting sunlight on your bare eyes, even if it's 5 minutes, getting that even in the cold, even in the rain, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's cloudy, because the piece that I didn't understand until a few years ago was that so we have in our eyes non-visual photoreceptors. So there's photoreceptors that don't have anything to do with vision, and their entire purpose is just to collect the information from what color wavelengths the sun is producing at that time.
Cool.
Do my contacts matter?
Yes. Yeah.
do.
So you do need times when your eyes
Okay.
are seeing the sunlight without sunglasses, without contacts, without glasses.
Okay.
Because it actually has to receive the full spectrum,
Wow.
which then talking about the mitochondria, it sets everything in motion. It's like, oh, I know what time of day it is, and now I know what to do. It sets the hormones, it sets the digestion, it sets the entire clock for the day.
Wow.
So there's different times of day where different wavelengths are doing beneficial things for the body. And ideally, you're getting a little bit of all those wavelengths throughout the day. You don't have to go spend a couple hours in the middle of the day. I mean, it's great if you can, but even 5-10 minutes at different points of the day, massive impact on your health.
Wow.
So those are the daily changes, is like seeing the sunrise or getting that morning sunlight, because there's sunrise and then there's a part where it goes into like UVA spectrum and you want to get a little of that. So you're trying to get more red and infrared. Everybody talks about infrared now, infrared saunas and red light. We know this is good for us, but like you can just get it from nature going outside. So just go outside, get it on your skin, get it on your eyes. And then if you can get some in the middle of the day, the UVB that we know about for like vitamin D production, very important. And then the other key change then is evening. So if I had to have people start with daily changes that are going to make the biggest impact, it would be your morning routine and your evening routine. That gives you a little more leeway during the day. And this is what I tell people, like, don't even worry about during the day right now. Get your morning right, get your evening right. Okay. The rest will fall into place. Your body can handle kind of the stressors of the day during the day. If you start to shift these things though, so in the morning you're doing the, sunrise, UVA time, you're eating right away. This is another thing.
Yes.
This is huge, actually. I'll
Yes.
tell you one
This
massive,
is huge. Elaine will tell you
one
too
massive,
why.
and this one was very hard for me. I will say, I mean, I'm just in a pattern now, but it's still not easy for me because I don't love eating in the morning. I just do it because I know it's better for me.
Yeah.
I do love periods of fasting. I think they're very important for your body. They're very healing. But a major shift is if you shift the fasting on days you're going to do that to evening instead of morning. So much better for your body rhythm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So eating between 30 to 60 minutes after waking, making sure you have some food in you before you do coffee. And then evening shifts are like protecting your light environment at night. So I have my blue blockers on now. I always do on any devices. The ones I have, I can slip like red tint on there's just like a magnet and it just like attaches to these ones. And then I just transitioned in the evening to the red ones.
Cool.
So after sunset, try to get a little bit of sunset on my eyes again at night. But then I protect my eyes from Because at that point, blue light has ended. In nature,
Yeah. Yep.
blue light has ended. What do? We're on computers, phones, TVs. We keep the blue light pumping all night. And blue light triggers cortisol production in the body. So you've blocked melatonin production, which you need for sleep, and you've continued cortisol production.
Yes.
Which leads to sleep issues, which leads to fatigue. So, I mean, it's, it's like, these are the things. So if you can get really careful about protecting your light environment at night, and it's like, I understand life is life and we got kids and things and going on. So just pop on, get used to wearing some blue blockers at night and like, you're good.
Yeah.
Dim the lights at home.
Yeah.
Try not to have obnoxious amount of lights on. Try to keep them as dim as possible. I changed the light bulbs. You can buy light bulbs that are like, less obnoxious.
And now even like eyeglasses, like the eyeglasses, my prescription eyeglasses that my husband and I both wear, just inherently have the blue light blocking in them. And they make regular eyeglasses like that. So if you have a prescription, then you can ask for it. And they actually showed us with a blue laser how much light it blocked.
Ooh,
it was cool. Really cool at the eye doctors. They're like, hey, this is regular glasses without the blue light blocking, and they could shine the laser through it. And then they shone it through.
Technology's
and I was like, this is amazing. And it has made a big difference having those. I'm not wearing them now. I mostly wear them at night, but Wow. But now you're inspiring me. I think I'll wear them all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's important. It's like blue light's not bad. It's just that there's too much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's become toxic. It's actually in this, functional medicine world, this is a phrase now everybody's talking about, is blue light toxicity. And there's literally symptoms that are starting to happen, and it's, it's changing our eyes. It's affecting our biology.
Yeah.
It's really important. It's actually huge. And it seems, because it's so common and normal, we feel like, well, it's got to be fine. This is just life now. But it's like, well, but we're mammals, actually. Like, we don't, like our body doesn't understand like the computer.
Yep.
It's not, and so we just have to be a little bit like, I think, diligent around these couple things. And that is where the massive shift will start.
Yes.
Now, sorry.
Amazing.
No. I was going to say those are the best ways to get started, though. Yeah.
Perfect. What is the composition of the optimal breakfast that you recommend with having that meal within 30 to 60 minutes? What do you usually recommend people eat?
Protein as a priority.
Yes.
Like protein. So protein and fat. I'm somebody who, so I do adjust my food seasonally, which, plays into circadian health and rhythm. So in terms of like what that looks like for me, it actually depends on the season. So in like summer, when berries and things, when there's more carby things that would actually be grown then, and my body understands. So this comes back to the wavelengths and the information, right? It's like the food was grown. It has the information from the sun. My body's getting that information. Those match. And then my body knows what to do. Versus if I'm eating food that it's like, these codes don't match. Like it's a total mismatch.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But protein's always the priority. So I always say, like, build every single meal around protein first. Protein first and foremost, healthy fats. Then is when your like carby things can come in when you've like had appropriate protein. So eggs are an obvious one. There's so many other sources of protein. I'll do there's some really clean, you have to be careful, of course, but I do have some like protein powders that I like.
Yeah.
If I just need to do a shake in the morning, I'll make like egg casserole and just kind of have that ready and easy and available in the, fridge.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, nut butters. I just kind of try to like rotate. But like right now, because I mentioned that circadian thing, so what I was eating in summer is a little different because I was having some berries or things like that. So more like I would have some smoothies. It's warmer weather out where I live. That's fine. I won't do that now in winter. So I'm done with smoothies. Now I almost go into more of a keto kind of diet. Not like, I'm not saying like I don't, but it resembles more of a keto diet in winter because that's actually just consistent with the season.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like protein and fat.
Right.
That's where I'm at with it, and it's like, I might, there's some squash whatever's local, I just shop so that I know like what's local and seasonal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been more basically my breakfasts right now have just been like egg and avocado or like, something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I did contradict myself a little bit there because avocados do not grow in North Carolina.
Right. Sure.
It's the one thing where I'm like,
Because they're beautiful. Yeah.
occasionally I'm still going to eat an avocado.
Yes. We're not perfect. Yeah.
But that's the thing, like progress, not perfection. Like
Yes.
I'm mostly doing it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to eat some avocado because it's avocado.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you have an amazing rhythm down to like the daily habit. And I feel like the other guests we've had on the podcast and living with Eleni now or in the podcast world, it feels like you're on track. Like all of this feels right and feels good. And I know intermittent fasting was very popular for a while. And I was like, oh, I want to toy with that. Except every morning I'm starving. So I always cheated and ate because I needed to. But I know we had a guest on who said that you need to eat in the morning. And Eleni, well, I can have you tell the story, but she was skipping breakfast. And anyway.
I mean, I was doing intermittent fasting, like starting meals at 11 or 12 each day and then doing my 8-hour window that way, which for me, honestly, if I look back at it, in just being honest with myself, was just the easiest way to do it because I had to be at work by 7:15 each morning. And that job in and of itself was destroying my health, but I had to be
stressor.
I had to be at work 7:15 every morning. I was getting up around 4:30, going to a 5:15 a.m. workout class. By the time I showered, got dressed, and left after that class, like I didn't have time to make and eat a good breakfast. And so it was convenient
To just say, I'm going to intermittent fast.
I'm going to intermittent fast, right? In the name of health, I'm like working towards my nutrition degree. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be my intermittent fasting. And I just, a whole host of health things started going on. I stopped sleeping very well. I developed insomnia, which I had. I'm prone to that anyway. Anytime I've had stressors in my life, I develop insomnia. So I knew that about myself, but it became chronic for years where I was just waking up every night in the middle of the night and being awake for hours. And I could kind of trace it back to the development of that habit. And when we had my friend from my program, Dina Thompson, on, she talked about you need to eat first thing in the morning within an hour of waking up, maybe within 2 hours.
Having protein. Yep.
Having protein and making that your biggest meal of the day and then letting the smallest meal be the lightest, which at that point, I was getting to work at 7:15 and getting home sometimes around 7 or 8 p.m. and then starting dinner. And then trying to be to bed within like 20 minutes of finishing my meal. So no wonder I was awake all night. Like my body is trying to digest food. It's releasing energy. Like
all night. So you're not sleeping. You're right.
So I'm not sleeping. It was a terrible trap. And as soon as I shifted that within like a week, so many things had improved of when I started eating breakfast and doing that first thing in the morning, making that a priority. I just started making breakfasts that were easy to take to work and eating at my desk, which is not ideal, but it was better than what I was doing. So yeah, eating breakfast. And then I would pack dinner for work and eat dinner at work around 5:30. And then that way, when I got home at night, I wasn't just starting dinner and trying to get to bed. So by the time I was getting to bed, it had been maybe like 3 hours since I had eaten, which was much more optimal. Anyway, all that to say, it made a huge difference in my health.
And that's what's crazy to me. Like, who would have ever thought the time that you ate food matters? The time that you go outside and get sunlight. Like, who would have ever thought that mattered? Our ancestors knew it mattered. But for some reason, me in 2023, I didn't know it mattered. I don't know.
Well, and they just lived outside. So even if they didn't know it mattered, they were just doing it as part of life. Like,
right.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, you guys said all the brilliant, amazing things. First of all, Eleni, you and I was like, oh, we were living parallel lives. Like
sounds stressful,
we were soul
guys.
sisters and didn't even know. I was getting up at 4:30 doing CrossFit.
Yes, that's
having
what I was doing.
like black coffee on the way to CrossFit. So I'm like, I look back now and I'm like, oh, I don't know why I developed Hashimoto's disease. Like I was killing my adrenals. I was like crushing it at CrossFit with no food in my body. And then, I was doing all that same thing and then eating later at night. And and then you're saying like, who would know? Well, our ancestors did, but they lived outside. And so this comes back to my comment, like we are so detached and disconnected from rhythms of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just causing this cascade of problems.
Yes.
Like if we did live more in touch with nature, it wouldn't even be a question. We would know, like, I'm getting ready to lead a retreat in Costa Rica in April.
Amazing.
And it's a place I've taken people before, a few times. It's a really magical place. I chose this. I stopped leading yoga retreats for a few years. And then it came to me very clearly that I need to continue to offer these experiences for people. But now I have a different lens as well, which is lifestyle rhythms, helping people to understand. And it was so clear to me where to take them, which is this place in Costa Rica, because of exactly what we're talking about right here. At this resort, there's no disconnecting from nature. You can't do it. It's in the middle of a rainforest. The howler monkeys are going to tell you when it's time to wake up. They're like, it's time. We need to see the sunrise, because pre-dawn gets them going. And so you're up, and this place observes silence in the morning, and the Wi-Fi's off.
Yes.
So there's no choice.
Yes.
You get up and you get your tea or your water, and you go and you sit looking over the water and you watch the sunrise.
Wow. Heaven.
Sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing. And it's like, and then you're eating food from the earth because they grow their own food. They have their own farm, and they're spending all day and they're just cooking it, and so much love, and they serve it family style. And, and then it's like the sun goes down, done. You're done with your day. Like it's not, we're talking, there's some candlelight. People are just like engaged and with each other. And then you go to bed like when you're supposed to, and your body rests and repairs. There's enough space between dinner and sleep. And I want people to have this whole week, because in a week, because you experienced, Eleni, like making those shifts, you said you felt an impact immediately. I want people, aside from the yoga, I want them to leave that week understanding how important this rhythm is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I understand. I'm not, most of the clients I work with are busy professionals, executives, entrepreneurs. I get it. I'm also living a very busy life with a lot of goals and things. And I don't think it's one or the other. But I do think that there's ways we have to prioritize it. And then you look at your life, or this is what I do with people. I look at their lives as an objective outsider, and I'm able to say, like, you do have to use some biohacking techniques. Like, we do have technology that can help, because we are like mammals living indoors and trying to live this modern life. Fine. But there's these things, there's red lights, there's blocker, these glasses, there's things that you can do. But you have to like be committed to doing what you can to align as much with the rhythm as possible.
I love it. I want to just share like a heart shift I've had during this conversation. Because one of the questions I had come in prepared to ask you. So my daughter, Noah, she's going to be 5 months old in 1 week. And one of the things that I'd been feeling, because I've asked my clients to get sunlight in their eyes first thing in the morning. And I've really lost that since she was born, because, as a new parent, your whole schedule is
surviving
put into turmoil. And so one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, how do I do that? It's going to be winter here. It's going to be cold. I have to get her I want her to experience it with me. So I'm like, I have to get her all bundled up. I'd have to get all bundled up. It just feels like so much just for 5 minutes, then to come in and undress. Anyway, so I was going to be like, what's your tip for making that work? Talk? Yeah, like give me a pep talk. And then as you were talking, I just felt this heart shift where I was like, actually, I want her to see that it takes work, and that I'm putting in the work to have that moment. Yeah. Like I almost want her to know that we're going to take the time to put on the coats, to put on the pants, even for just 5 minutes of outside time. I want her to see that I do that even when it's hard.
Yes.
And I kind of love that I have that opportunity where it's not easy all the time.
Yes.
To do these things, to eat first thing in the morning, to take care of our health. Yeah. It's a similar heart shift that I had when we were talking to Renee Coley. She's the Raising Generation Nourished. We had her on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she was talking about, like, I was feeling kind of bad about how much time I spend in the kitchen, and I just put my daughter in her little rocker seat and she watches me in the kitchen all the time. And I was almost feeling like I'm not playing with her, doing things to stimulate her. She's just sitting in the kitchen with me. And then I had this realization during that conversation that Renee shared. Is like, no, she's watching you take the time to
That's
make
part of being
healthy, nourishing foods like that. She just wants to be doing what you're doing. She doesn't care if she's looking at special high contrast objects and having all this tummy time and playing with different textures.
Dr.
Like
Einstein,
she wants to be part of what you're doing. And so I just had this second heart shift of, oh no, it's okay that it's hard work. I kind of want her to see that we do things even when they're hard. What a like amazing opportunity I have. That we live in a state that has winter where it's hard to get outside some days because you don't want to. And some days maybe you can't be out for more than 2 minutes or you get frostbite. But like, it's like,
but do the 2 minutes.
My brain shifted from like, man, I wish I lived somewhere warm and tropical where it was easy to like, oh, what a great opportunity to show my daughter that health does not happen accidentally. It takes intention, it takes hard work, and we do it anyway because we know what's good for us.
Right. And then it makes other things in your life easier since your hormones are balanced and you have a circadian rhythm. So it's like kind of where you invest your time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps that whole time you were talking. I was like, yes. No, but this is it, right? It's like, what are you actually teaching her?
Yeah.
And in those examples, it's like, oh, you're teaching her that like choosing yourself, nourishing yourself is the most important thing you could do.
Yeah.
Because if you're not nourishing yourself in these ways, and if you're not prioritizing yourself, and if you're not willing to do the hard things, to then have, and you do the hard things actually to have ease and flow. You have to do some of these hard things to actually invite the ease and flow into your life. Because then that's what happens. Like when you don't feel well and you're tired and you're on this stress roller coaster and you're super fatigued and you have symptoms, like maybe you're making choices that are quote unquote easier, but like, is your life easier? No, it's for sure. It's not. Like it's definitely harder. And I love that. I love everything you said. Like, that's so amazing. And I would say the other couple of things that came to mind is like, one, worst case scenario, on some day something's happening, at least open the window. Just open the window and literally gaze outside. The wavelengths will come through, but the window has to be open and they will bend. It doesn't even have, like if you work even with a window slightly cracked, like those light waves are going to come in.
Cool.
So
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So always have some window open, especially if you're on a computer. Like even if it's winter, like have it cracked a little bit, have the window cracked in your car. Always have some window cracked in your car because then the wavelengths can come in. So these are like little things that you can do. But you mentioned the cold, and here's a mindset shift. And actually, I'm having to deal with this as well because, I got in a little bit like, the only place I can be healthy is if I go live in Costa Rica, And it's like, well, that sounds lovely. But also, of course, you can be healthy other places. But how do you deal with the cold? An amazing thing that I learned that I'm going to share with you. This is going to give you hope. So melanin that, gives us our tan. But the sun gives us the melanin the body uses for healing and repair, which actually I didn't know. I was like, well, it just makes you look nice.
Right.
No, it actually, like, the melanin is being used by the body for repair. Cool. The other way to produce melanin is cold thermogenesis, allowing your body to be cold. So whether you do cold plunging, cold showers, or actually just not dress up so warmly in the winter, we don't have to keep a consistent 65 degree temperature of our body, 70 degrees in our house, and let your house be a little chillier, be a little less stressed outside, let your body adapt to the cold as it's intended to. But cold thermogenesis produces melanin in the body.
Cool.
Really? So okay, there is hope.
That is how, that's how you do it in winter. So it's a mindset shift of like, yes, it's winter. And now I have an opportunity to allow my body to like do its magic a different way and lean into it. Like be outside, be in the cold, let yourself get chilly. Cold plunging in winter is actually more consistent with like how your body. So I shift my cold plunging now and I do it a little less cold. I don't do it as extremely cold in the summer. like all the temperature of the tub. I've like this summer I had it like not as cold, and this winter I'll go like hardcore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hardcore, like
I'm
ice.
in.
Put me in the ice because that's what my body's gonna like be adapted to from outside.
So wild. Okay,
So
well,
Makes
so
sense.
now you have a new love for where you live. Like,
yes, we love the
yes,
Midwest.
thank you.
Yes, it's keeping us young.
Well, that's what I always like. I know cold plunging is really hot right now. So that's why I always said I've been cold plunging for 6 months now. Like, I don't even need to go in a bathtub. I'm just cold for 6 months.
Yeah. It's good for you.
Really healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love if you
amazing.
would talk to us a little bit about the yoga,
Yes.
how yoga could help with our health journey and some of the breath work, because you just came back from a cool breath work. Well, not just, but you had a cool breath work workshop earlier this year that you went on a retreat. And I want to know about the importance of yoga, mostly because that's what my body is craving right now. This postpartum
Just
time,
flow.
my
Yep.
body is like, no, you have to be gentle. Like it wants me to nourish it, and I'm feeling yoga. So I want to know all about that, and I want to know about the breath work and how that can apply too.
Yeah. Yeah. So yoga, I mean, as I mentioned, how that came into my life and what I started to notice, which was initially more of a emotional, energetic shift in my body. Like it just sort of brought me down a notch. And so one of the things that actually also is contributing to this like energy shortage and crisis and how people are feeling that we didn't talk about is that, we've got the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic system. And the sympathetic system is the get stuff done, fight or flight. It's good, it's healthy when it needs to be on. But then the parasympathetic should balance it, and you should come down from that, like you need to rest and digest, and we don't. And so that's part of the problem with technology, is it actually keeps you stuck in sympathetic overdrive and it doesn't allow the parasympathetic to come in. So this is where I think the practices of yoga and breath work actually bring us back to this. It helps you touch that feeling. So, yoga has become quite a physical practice in modern life and in the States, and that's great. I don't care how people come to their yoga mat. Like if you want to do CrossFit in a yoga room, basically, like, because that's how sometimes I go to these classes and I'm like, I basically just did CrossFit.
Yeah.
And they're calling it yoga.
Yeah.
Like we were doing push-ups and crazy stuff, but like, sure. Whatever the entry point is because I feel like, and my practice evolved over time. Like I came for like, I wanted physical aesthetics. Like I wanted the strength. I wanted a 6-pack. I wanted to do handstands and arm balances. And I was super into it. Fine. It's fine. Because what happens is that time with yourself when you are mostly in a yoga setting and space or during a yoga practice, ideally you have put technology away somewhere. Now, if you're doing it at home, of course, you might be on, like a Zoom or something or watching a video, and that's fine. But I think this is actually where the breath work comes in. So what is, I think, most impactful about yoga is it gives you this opportunity to start to understand the link between the breath and the nervous system. And the way that you move your body in yoga and shapes, and there's so many different styles, but I would say sort of broadly, when you get into these, I'll just call them shapes, like, asanas, poses, when you're in these shapes and you're sort of confronting things, right? So it's like, oh, I don't want to stay still in this, or this part, there's a lot of chatter, like the monkey mind comes up and you're just like, and then you're thinking about your like list of things because you've slowed down, right? You're doing something that's like, you really can't ignore yourself or escape. That's what yoga does. It brings you into yourself.
Yes.
And then you're breathing, you're holding, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, why do I need to, like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable or I'm bored. That's interesting. It's like, it's an observation practice, and it starts to, over time without you even knowing it. Like it doesn't, you just show up and do it and it just works its magic, but it starts to, so that's the sort of like, I would say the mental, spiritual, esoteric stuff that starts to filter in as you do actually start to, it's like meditation. It can be really meditative actually in that way. Moving meditation is how I like to think of yoga. But then so then there's that piece, but then there's literally the physical piece, which is that in terms of hydration.
Mm-hmm.
So hydration is really an issue for people as well, which is leading to fatigue
Yes.
and
I'm gonna
the
drink more of
energy
that.
crisis and shortage. Like we're not hydrated. We're not
Mm-hmm.
hydrated properly. So some people like irrigate themselves. They drink just like tons of
Yes.
water,
Yes.
right? And it's
Yes.
like that's not the answer either.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be the kind of water your body can utilize. You need minerals. There's a lot to the water thing, which we could have an entire podcast episode about the water. But
Yes.
what I will say about yoga is that yoga moves the fascia.
Mm-hmm.
So that connective tissue, it moves the fascia and opens up pathways for fluid. So the lymph flow for fluid release, it literally creates through piezoelectricity. The way that you move in yoga creates literally electricity that creates easy water in your body, this like structured
Really?
water
This is
that then
awesome.
that the mitochondria use to repair and do energy, so you
Cool.
so the physical piece of yoga, the way you're moving without you even knowing it, is it's generating that. It's generating easy water. It's releasing connective tissue tightness. It's opening up lymph. It's opening up it helps the flow. If you do acupuncture and you know about meridians, like
Mm-hmm.
you need to allow the flow through your body. And we live, even if you're like a really active person, so I would say people are either like pretty sedentary, they're in cars or on computers all day and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or the kinds of movements they're doing, it's generally a combo of the two, right? Like you're sitting a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
then if you're somebody who works out, you're like, right, I've been sitting for 8 hours, now I'm going to go to CrossFit or run,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna like crush it for an
Yeah.
hour.
Yep.
That doesn't create that harmony and flow in the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the yoga piece energetically is going to work on bringing the parasympathetic system in and taking you out of sympathetic, getting you in touch with like your thoughts, your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn a lot about yourself through yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's doing this physiological piece of moving fluid, creating easy water, releasing tight spot, allowing your body so that your body can do the repair, let's say at night. You've opened up pathways that then allow the things to flow that need to flow.
Wow.
So, in summary, yoga is magical and everybody needs to be doing it.
Yes.
You've convinced me. I did yoga for years, but then I kind of quit, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that again. Yep, that sounds
Uh-huh.
good. Yep.
Yeah. And I'll say, it doesn't, I'm a kind of, again, I've said this, I'm an all or nothing person
Mm-hmm.
often. So I'm like, well, if I can't do a 90-minute class, then I shouldn't do it at all,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, 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 no.
Right.
Even 10 minutes in the morning,
Mm.
what an amazing way to start the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just do a little bit, do some tapping, do some qigong, do some yoga, do something that gets that lymph flowing, that
Mm-hmm.
opens up the pathways. And then so where the breath work comes in, you're naturally doing a lot of breath work with yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And so even just doing a yoga practice, during practice, you're breathing in a specific way. Often, depending on the style and the teacher, they might separately guide you through breath work. And so that's always been a big component for me in yoga. What you're referring to is the Wim Hof method, which I started doing his guided breath work maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. He came on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to find. Like if you go on YouTube, there's a good beginner. I make all my clients do it. It's one of the first things I make them do circadian and Wim Hof immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's 11 minutes, like the
Okay.
beginner Wim Hof guided thing. It's an
Okay.
11-minute, like, and everybody's got 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's 3 rounds. It guides you through it. His particular style, he doesn't just have one way to do breath work, but it's the entry level one into the technique. But it's a kind of combination of deep breaths. So you're learning to expand your lungs, which a lot of us just don't do during the day. So it's training those lungs to really like breathe deeply and then let go deeply. But then there's breath hold, which has a whole physiological like impact on your body, which is very healing. I will tell you, I've never had a single person who does this, that doesn't call me and go like, what? You've changed my mornings and my life. Like, particularly it calms the anxiety of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do his breath technique and think about anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that.
I've done his classes before, and you are concentrating on it. Yeah.
You cannot. It's like, just like when you get in the ice, there's no chatter anymore because you're
Yeah.
just like focused.
It's just like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. You're like, okay, everything goes into like, I got to focus right now because otherwise I'm going to die. This was happening in your body. Then you're like, no, you're not. You're fine, but just focus. Like everything's good. Everything's fine. So they always say that like, so you can't, there's no thoughts. So it kind of like allows you to just have space in the morning without the chatter. It also really energizes people. They literally end up after this 3 rounds feeling like, right, okay, I can take on the day. So my clients have shared that their favorite thing to do then is combine the two. So they'll do like the breath work and then they'll do like a cold shower. And then they feel like superhuman.
Okay. I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All that I know of the Wim Hof is I watched some documentary on him, but I saw him do his breath work and they like were in a lab and they literally injected some like sickness.
Ebola.
Yeah, into him. And then he didn't get infected because his breathing made his immune system like Superman. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I want it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, he's like basically donated his body to science. The incredible thing about him too is that he's just like, I'm not magical. This is available to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just a person. I'm just a human who does these things.
Yeah.
I'm committed to it. That's the thing. It's a commitment and a discipline.
Yeah.
And it's something everybody can access. There's nothing superhuman about him other than he's committed to this practice that makes his body resilient.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do you do it every morning? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in.
A practical question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, as a new mom, I shower like once a week and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
My life choices.
Yes.
Wim Hof is the reason why I take a cold shower. But just curious, with the cold plunge or a cold shower, what's the optimal amount of time to do it for? And then should it be daily? That's my question.
Well, shower versus cold plunge, I'll talk about the two.
Yeah,
I think if you're doing a cold shower, daily is amazing.
Great.
You're going to get benefits if you're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's like the thing I just said about yoga. It's like it's not all or nothing. It's like, well, if I can't do it every day, then I'm not going to do it. That's
which tends to be my personality.
Yeah, me too.
Same. I'm like same. That is why this keeps coming up.
Yeah.
I get it. So any time that you do it is fine. In terms of the amount of time of cold showers, I mean, you really only need like a couple minutes is sufficient. It depends on how cold your shower gets. Like in Syracuse, I had no problem with very cold water in my shower.
I was like, in the winter here, it gets cold.
Yeah. Same. It was like real cold. In North Carolina, my shower does not get that cold. So it was just like barely cool and that wasn't doing anything for me. So I had to just like really just commit to the cold plunges. So when I was doing cold showers, I do those daily. And then it's like, I don't know, 2 minutes, 2 minutes is fine. It's sufficient. And if you're just starting, literally whatever, 15 seconds, 20 seconds,
it's shocking.
30 seconds, it's fine. And if you can't do your whole body, the best is at least to get your face and your chest.
Wow.
That's going to help the nervous system the most. You're going to activate the vagus nerve. You're going to bring that parasympathetic part in.
Okay.
So even if you're not in the shower, you can like, you have to hold your breath, but you can just plunge your face in like a bowl of ice water.
Okay.
That will matter. Like that helps. So there's so many ways to ease into it or just make do with what you have.
Yeah.
If you're doing cold plunging, I'll tell you what they taught us actually in Spain, because these were part of the reasons I went on this retreat was to learn more about how to appropriately integrate the cold plunging in my life, because I do see people go like hardcore with it, just like they do with CrossFit. Like a little bit's good, so it must be good to do a lot of it. Like, what they taught us is that it's not necessary, and actually, it can create like detrimental effect if you're going too cold, too much.
Yeah.
It feels like life. Yeah.
It's too much, right?
Yeah.
And so they had us in pretty extreme experiences in that week because that was the point. Like first ice plunge, 15 minutes, no, 10 minutes. 10 minutes was the first one. They were like, go 10 minutes. I was like, okay.
I'm dying. Wow.
Yeah. And then we went to 15 and then we did other things, but they were very clear that like, this is not a daily practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does not need to be. So anything below 57 degrees is beneficial. So it also doesn't have to be extreme cold. You don't have to suffer that much. I would say it depends on where your health's at the time. Because if you're in like adrenal fatigue and you're going into this, you're in a lot of stress, you're trying to reset your body, not a good time to go hardcore cold plunging.
Yeah.
Then you're maybe doing contrast showers where it's like warm and then cold and then warm and then cold, and you're easing your body into it. If you're at a certain level of health that's pretty stable, then you're doing the cold plunging, but it's like a few minutes. They shared with us that like it's beneficial. 2 to 3 minutes is you will have all of the benefits from cold plunging in like a 3-minute period. Anything beyond that actually is more like maybe for mental health reasons. Like maybe you're trying to, there's some reason that, you know what I mean? Like you might make a choice, but then you're doing like, I'll do like 7-minute or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But like twice a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, what is the actual benefit? What do they say to do cold plunging? What does it do for you?
What doesn't it do?
What doesn't it? Okay.
I mean, honestly, the plethora of health benefits is kind of like, it's incredible, but it reduces inflammation.
Okay.
That's the main thing. I would say like, I think we could actually leave it at that because inflammation is really what's going on with all health issues.
It's the driver of everything.
Yes.
You know, we could go down really specific like details, but it's like overall it reduces inflammation.
Okay.
And bringing the inflammatory response down for anything you're dealing with is key.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the main thing about the cold. I would say that, and the one thing I would add is that like it does boost, so for like mental health, it boosts
dopamine or
like
something.
it boosts your immune, it boosts like all those neurotransmitters.
Yep.
It increases neurotransmitter release. So those would be the two I would say are like kind of cover most everything else. Yeah.
Okay, I hate the cold, guys. So that's one that I do all the crazy things, but
that's why Kay is in literally a vest and a long sleeve jacket. And it's like like 56 degrees out right now, and she's in my basement. We're not even outside.
And a little parka thing on. It's freezing.
I was wondering if there's like a door window open. Or
it feels like there's a draft in here.
There will be from now on. There will be a door or a window open every time we're in here.
Freezing and snow will actually come in.
Yes, we will crack it.
That is okay. So I need to convince myself to do this. Okay,
it's time for you to embrace the cold. Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't have to be like literally a couple minutes.
Yeah,
and 57. Like remember that once you hit 57, you're getting benefit.
Okay,
so that's a good starting place. It's cool. It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
freezing.
not painfully cold.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll start with my face. I can do that.
Oh, yeah. So for our listeners, so let's say that they are listening to everything that you said and they want to implement it tomorrow. So they want the 5 to 10 minutes of sunshine in their eyeballs first thing, and they're going to eat a good protein-rich breakfast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up, and they're going to do their cold plunge and their breath work. What are some of the things they could expect to see change in their health in the immediate and long term if they start those practices?
First and foremost, usually sleep is the first thing people notice changes. So that's, I would say, I'm going to put a percentage. I would say 99% of clients, or just, I'm in groups where people are talking about circadian stuff. And that is the number one thing is they're like, I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept in my life, which then creates a cascade of other health improvements, right? Because then if you're sleeping well, your body's actually doing the repair and healing that it needs to at night. So generally sleep improvement, mood improvement. It's where people start to, if they've had weight loss resistance, those changes will start to move the needle on weight loss. Without getting too deep into it, it's because of when you're making those changes, particularly eating the protein in the morning, within an hour of waking, and you're doing the sunrise stuff, you're going to start to reset a hormone called leptin. And leptin resistance is like, that's the major problem. So those things are going to create healing with the leptin pathway. And then usually a reduction in other inflammatory things. So like maybe headaches, joint pain, that stuff starts to go away. Your thinking gets more clear. I would say mental clarity is huge, huge, huge. And, in terms of that, it's like the cascade from there, right? So then you're just reacting a little bit differently in life. You're making different decisions. You're less stressed. So then your mood's better. And then you feel like exercising. And, it starts to then, it's like you've started the ball rolling downhill. Let's just use the cold example. Like we love the cold. We love it. We're embracing it. So it's like you've made a little snowball and then you've pushed it down a hill and it's picking up more and more and more. And then it becomes this like massive, snowball that's like health. It's like the snowball of health. Like it just keeps going and you're building more reserve, you're building more resilience, and you're going to be sick less often, like less colds, less, all this stuff that goes around. Like you get to release the fear of it because your body's strong and resilient. And so, and then I think the thing that's important to mention as well is that it feels a little bit overwhelming to people sometimes to think about all the changes. So a reminder that it's just baby steps consistently in the right direction is going to get you there.
Yeah.
Like it's not everything all at once, but the main thing is to keep going. That's it. If it's little things, it's fine. It compounds over time. Maybe you don't notice it in a month. Maybe you don't notice it in 3 months. But if you stick with it, in a year from now, you're like an entirely different person.
Yeah.
Digestion improves. So usually digestive issues will start to go away. Unless, and this is where, of course, I come in with people is like, we maybe have looked at gut tests and maybe there's some actual things that need to be addressed there. But just overall, everything starts to improve. And then things that you wouldn't even think of, like your vision starts to improve. I don't wear my glasses anymore.
Wild.
Weird. I didn't, and it's not even like I made a conscious choice. Like I didn't have to wear them all the time. I wore them for like reading and computer work.
That's like mine.
And literally one day I was like, wait a minute, I have not grabbed my glasses I couldn't even remember the last time. And I was like, whoa, weird. Colors are more vibrant.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, life just sort of like,
it
tangibly just gets sparklier.
I love that.
I love it. I agree. I feel like right now a lot of the friends of mine that we are kind of moms at the same age, and now we're kind of all the same age with older kids, and we're all kind of talking about how we're like napping more and healing and making better choices. Like I quit dairy, gluten, sugar, and with Elaine's guidance on a lot of things, and I just am starting to feel really good. And me and all my friends in this era, we're calling it our healing mom era. Like we all feel like we're really coming into like our brains are sharper. We don't feel so stressed, or we're feeling really good. And I've been napping more, which I'm embracing it because of our sleep podcast. But my other friend was napping too, and she was like, "Oh, I just thought it was because I was depressed." And I go, no, honey, you're restoring. This is restorative. I was like, we got to reframe that. We are healing. Like, this is good. But I really feel like, everything that you're talking about, about 70% of it I've implemented. And the other 30% I'm excited to start implementing. But just getting on that journey, it's so true that the colors are more vibrant. I just feel so good and more clear in my brain.
Food tastes better, like real food tastes better.
Yes, and I can just kind of be more in a room, like with my kids. I can just be, and and not everything's a crisis. I don't know. It's just a really good vibe to be in. So
yeah. And I think there's more connection with other people, right? Like your body's just more clear, and so you're just present. You said, present in the room, but it's like you're just present in life in a different way. You wake up and you're like, great.
Yes.
I get to do this day. And I was not always in that place. Like truthfully, really vulnerably here. Even a lot of years of this yoga studio. Now, anybody who may listen to this, who was one of my students or people, it was a very special place. And I don't want to like, I don't want people to like be like, oh no, I had no idea Tiff was like, but it was dark for me for a lot of years actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I would wake up in the morning with like an elephant on my chest, massive anxiety,
Wow.
feeling so overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't even understand how I'm going to face the day.
Yeah.
And then I did. It was sheer will and love for the community, for the people, pull myself together, pull that strength out of a reserve that I now understand. I was just depleting my reserve.
Yeah.
Had a well of reserve and I was tapping into it constantly.
And
so
that's why when you sold it and you let your
Yes.
guard down, it just all the bottom fell out.
That's exactly right. It was just like,
Wow.
okay, good. And now it's time to heal.
Wow.
And now you have to go in the hospital and you have to stop moving because it's time to heal and refill this well and learn the lesson not to do that again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. And so it's like this shift of like, that was actually amazing to me. I'll tell you, it's actually when I started the cold showers is when my mornings started to get like, I pulled out of that depressive state of like, I don't know how to face the day.
Wow. So even
then-
during
Wow, that's
those
amazing.
years, you were mostly like in a functional world being healthy, but that was just a stressor that, and then the shower could help you overcome that.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cause I would be like, I can't. And, there was just so many people pulling at me and it was 7 days
Yes.
a week and it was multiple locations. And then it's just stuff when you've got
Yeah.
locations and it's like, I don't know, the landlord, there's a flood or there's always something.
There's always
And I would wake
something.
up and be like, I can't do it.
Can't.
Yeah.
I can't. But then I would, I'd do my breath work, I'd do the cold shower and I'm like, okay,
I can do it.
here we go. I'm going to do it.
Do you feel now that
yeah.
you're more in alignment, like with your career wise?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I literally sometimes I just laugh during the day because I'm like, is this real life? I don't,
I can help
and
people.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I look at it really objectively and I'm like, actually, there's just as many life stressors if you want to just categorize. It's not like my life magically got like all stress went away or
Right.
things I would say are stressors. I totally react to them differently. I frame it differently. I don't have this attachment to like, ooh, that's a stressful thing. It's like, that's just a thing. I just have to deal with it. Like, yeah, it's no, to be fair, I am at a different point in life. My son is 18.
Yes.
He's on his own, he's doing well. I've let go of physical locations of managing that. I have a virtual business.
Yeah.
But you do just trade actually stressors, right? Like it's not like people used to, I'll tell you, I would hear people say to me like during the yoga studio years, they were like, oh man, Tiff, you just live the life. You're in bare feet all day. You do yoga all day. Like you just like, there's no care in the world. Like you just live this like super stress-free life. And I'm
Like you're not managing a business.
yeah, I'm like, totally. Yeah, that's that's not at all what happens. And same here. It's like, it could maybe from the outside look like, oh, she just gets to work from wherever and whenever. And there's still a business that I'm running. And,
There's still bills.
like, yeah. And the responsibility to the clients, which I take very seriously. Like when people enter the container with me and they've decided, and I have a particular, like, I always have this like call first. I offer my consultation calls free because I think it's really important for us to make sure that we're on the same page. Because I'm all in. Like I am all in. We're getting you to the outcome that you wanted. And if you're in it with me, I'm in it with you. We're both at a 10. So there's just a lot of commitment with that. But my perspective has shifted in terms of all these things that I have to do because it's just a gift actually to be able to like, but that's because I feel well. I mean, it all, it all comes full circle. It's like my body is not inflamed. My brain is not inflamed. I'm able to switch between sympathetic when it's needed. And then I'm able to downregulate back to parasympathetic. I do not sacrifice my health for anything anymore. I will not.
Yeah.
I just won't. Like I will stop and go get outside because that's it. And if the work's not done, it's not done, but I'm not missing my connection with nature for the day. There's things like that. Like I'm not missing my breath work. That's just there's just like the like non-negotiables.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody has to decide which of those are that make the most impact for them.
Yes.
And then you build your day around it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Amazing.
it. I know we could talk to you for another 2 hours, but of course.
Yes, and we will. We'll get you more on podcasts.
Yeah. But how do people find you if they want to work with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you? Your social media handles, your website. Will you share all of that? And we'll also link it in the show notes. But some people just have problems accessing the show notes. So I always like to cover it in the podcast so they can hear it too.
Yeah, thank you. So my website's the best place to start. It's just my name, TiffanyCagwin.com.
And that's Cagwin.
Yes, exactly.
And Tiffany with a Y at the end.
Yes. Tiffany. Cagwin.
Okay.
So TiffanyCagwin.com. On the website at the bottom, links to all my socials, but basically all my socials are at Tiff Cagwin. So I just shortened the Tiffany part. So it's just at Tiff Cagwin for Instagram, Facebook is I'm on there. And then through my website, they can book a call with me. It's really obvious, like on every page, basically. They can read my story. They can look at how the program works. As I mentioned, those discovery calls are complimentary because I think it's really important to take time to connect and see if like I really can help, like if I'm the right person. If not, I'm happy to refer out if I don't think I'm the right person. Like I feel really strongly about that. Because again, like once I'm in, I'm all in and we're going to get to the outcome. So I want to take that time with people at the beginning. On my website, they can also, I mentioned the Costa Rica yoga retreat. There are still some spots. And so on my website, there's a services, across the top, and pulling that down shows the coaching, like the one-on-one program, and then the Costa Rica retreat. But it's all on there. They can email me, message me through the website. There's a contact form, or through social media, or booking a call with me. So I make myself pretty accessible. It's easy to find me. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. And people should find you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well,
Thank
you have been so cool to talk to. I feel like you're this like mature woman taking on the world, like could hold all this responsibility and like holds people to their highest. And you're just really good energy. And I appreciate all that you've shared with us. It's really cool. And I'm going to start doing heavy breathing and take cold baths now. Maybe not wear parkas during the middle of the day. We'll see.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you for being on today. I know we could talk for another several hours. Normally I ask like, is there anything else you want to cover? But I think we really could cover a million other topics with you. We'll definitely have you back on. We've loved having you on. And for anybody who's watching the video, you know that what Tiffany is saying is accurate because she's gorgeous. Like I have never been somebody who's like, I'm excited about 40. Yes. I have never worried about chronological age. To me, what scares me is biological age. So that's what I'm always working on. But you are just like living proof of this like glowing, gorgeous woman in her mid 40s.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, good. I'm right to be excited about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we got it. We got it.
Oh, well, now viewers are going to see like my face just got so red. And like, thank you. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And it's been absolutely incredible, like this conversation, but just connecting with the two of you. I feel like the synchronicity is there and I'm looking forward to more.
Agreed. Yeah. Same here.
Sounds good. We'll keep in touch with you and we'll get some good topics. I've got a lot of questions for our next topics. I want to cover like the Wim Hof. I want to cover all the things. Okay, we'll get there. But all right. Well, thanks for talking with us, Tiffany. And for our listeners, go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!